Welcome everybody. My name is Koerich from Hevalide, USA, and today is a very, very special day. And that's because for the first time I'm here speaking in English in my course, open to everybody that wants to learn about how to become a dentist in the USA. And I have a very special guest, Dr. Gaby Lagreca from TUFTS University. She's going to be talking to us about five mistakes that most of people make when they're trying to become a dentist in the USA. All right, let's do it. Let's start. This is a very, very special interview for me because you know that I have my course. I teach people how to come here to the US just like you do. The main difference is that I only speak Portuguese to them. That's pretty much the first time I'm speaking in English to them. And I mean, I couldn't have a better guest than you. I think it's perfect to have you here for this very special first English interview. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, I'm so excited to be here, and I'm glad that your followers and people that work with you get to hear you in English because they know it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. That is right. That is right. So we have a few minutes here today, and one of the reasons I invited you is because I think you first, as me, you're international graduate, and then you came to the U.S., but you have a very, very unique background and very amazing what you've done so far. So please just introduce yourself, tell them about where you're working right now and what you've been doing lately.
Excellent. So, well, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. So happy to be here with all of you. And thank you so much for inviting me again to this space. And I will try to speak slowly because I know that we always talk about this. I speak very fast. And my goals when I came to the US was to be myself, and myself speaks very fast. So that was one of the things that I check on the list. But bear with me if I do, you can slow me down, okay? So basically, I came to the US about 11 years ago. With a dream, like many of you, but my dream was very simple at that point. I just wanted to be a prosthodontist, and my dream was to have a career and have a professional development opportunity beyond what my country could offer me at that moment. Like many of you, I was feeling a little bit maybe cage within Venezuela. I'm originally from Venezuela. I went to dental school there, and after 2 years of private practice and a little bit of teaching, I realized that I had a hard ceiling. I felt like that thing on my head, like this thing dividing my screen right now. And I couldn't really reach, I couldn't really grow. And it was because of the country. And sadly, the country couldn't offer me those opportunities. The country was putting that ceiling within me. I have the wings, I could fly, but I just couldn't go. So I started exploring those academic opportunities in the US. And I came here initially for studying English, then a fellowship, then a specialty, and then ended up staying because I fell in love with the culture, I fell in love with the lifestyle, and with so many elements that I felt like better fit my personality than even what I grew up with. So long story short, I've been teaching at TUFTS for 6 years in the postgraduate of prosthodontics, so I'm one of the faculty members in the program that I graduated from. I'm actually currently the Director of Faculty Education and Instructional Development at TUFTS, so I recently got that promotion. I'm highly involved.
Congrats.
Thank you. I'm highly involved with a lot of organizations in both the academic board and also the specialty of the College of Prosthodontics. And other than that, I'm just a very motivated person. I feel like I'm a person that always can see the big picture, and because of that, I realized that not so many people can do that. So I wanted to share the view and share that vision of seeing the big picture and hopefully inspire others to do what I did and follow their dreams. And that's how I started the international dentist. So tell me what you want to know. I'm like,
great. I do want to ask you, so you've been 6 years at TUFTS as a faculty?
Yes, it's been about 6 years. I graduated in 2015. I started teaching actually when I started residency because it is mandatory for you the first residency that you teach. And I remember the mandatory requirements were very low, but I always loved teaching. So I started getting more involved with teaching as time went by because I realized, okay, only 3 hours a week is not enough. So I continued to teach. I was doing teaching assistant for the whole 3 years of the residency program, and up to close to 8 hours a week. So
Yes.
a lot of teaching in those 3 years since 2012, but as a formal professor at the university since 2015.
Nice. And tell me a little bit more about the International Dentist podcast, just so people know what they're going to find when they start listening to your podcasts.
Yes, so content in English, let's just say that first. But
Mm-hmm.
content in English from people like us, people that don't have English as a first language, and we all come with all nuances about the language and all little expressions. So over the course of 2020, with all of the challenges that we all experienced,
Mm-hmm.
personally with COVID, I realized that especially our international community was so hurt with not having an opportunity to just travel to the US and come in, even do programs, interviews, and so many things. So I wanted to create a bridge and an opportunity for those that were far away to still feel connected, to learn from others, and to hopefully create this virtual constellation of mentors that I felt that I have. When I look at my career and I look at my life, and you probably feel the same way.
Yes.
So many mentors, and each one comes to your life in a particular moment for a particular thing, and they might go or they might stay. So I realized that I was very lucky, and I wanted to share that luck with people. So I created the International Dentist podcast. I start first reaching out to my friends, to my circle.
Mm-hmm.
But I know so many great people that have amazing stories coming from all over the world, going through so many sacrifices that I feel when you are dealing with the sacrifice or the effort, you feel like you're alone. Like,
Yes.
no, a lot of people that we're all together on this. So let's open a window to those maybe challenges and unfortunate situations, so people can share light through the fact that there is a way, there is a path. We're going to get through this, and at least you can get a little window into what's going on in the United States and get motivated in the process. So that's how I started the podcast. I started just chatting with my friends and asking them about their experiences, how they got their licenses, because there are so many options. It's so confusing. So I realized I try to bring people's stories in the game. And that's how it all started. So if you go to my website or the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or Spotify, you'll find just conversations with different people like you and I that have been through this process, and they just share a little bit about their experiences.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you for basically volunteering your time to help all this big group of international dentists that want to become a dentist in the United States. Thank you for doing that. So after this introduction, I know you have a lot of knowledge about the subject, and what I like about this coming to the US is because there's no one path. There's so many paths. And like what I know and what I can help people, maybe somebody wants a different path that I'm not the best person. So every time I talk to somebody, I learn something new. And having you on board is great. And then when you suggested the subject about the 5 mistakes that people make, I thought that was great. So I'm going to let you start with your idea for 5 mistakes, and I'll chime in. I'll give you my thoughts about what you're talking, but I want you to go ahead and start talking about it a little bit.
Excellent. So I love talking about challenges, and I think that everything in life, like, it's good when you go and just show your shiny side, but nobody really shows, or not too many people show, what is the hardship behind that challenge, that sweat and tear that was behind. So this is a collection of the 5 common mistakes I hear people making, and I made some of them myself as well when trying to come to the United States, or even deciding onto getting a license in the US. So please chip in, Leonardo, anything that or your intake on the process, I would love to hear it.
Sure.
So mistake number 1, underestimate the process. What underestimate the process mean? As you said, there's so many ways of getting a license. There are few ways of getting a license in the US. When you underestimate the process, you don't even spend time doing research on what's the best choice for you. You just feel, oh, I'm going to make a plan, and I'm going to go with my travel visa, and I'm going to just go into a program and apply. Or I get messages all the time, I went to Massachusetts, how can I get a faculty license? Okay, we have to step back a little bit. You're underestimating the process. So underestimating the process means realizing that you're coming in an immigration process. Therefore, as an immigration process, you're coming to a new culture, new experience, new educational system. And there's so many elements of that you will have control, and so many that you will not have full control.
Mm-hmm.
Process is long, and I don't know how long it took for you. I always tell people you have to take at least 1 year of planning, maybe 1 year of execution. So I would always say about 2 years to preparing to be ready to actually apply. Sometimes it could be a year if people are like really sharp. But
they know all the shortcuts.
yes,
But they have to know every single one of those shortcuts, and they have to execute so fast.
that will be like extremely fast, like somebody that just go like and flies.
Yeah.
But I will say average is about 3 years. Most people take about 3 years to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
And most people will say, oh, why so long? And it's part of the process is because in America, everything happens very early on, meaning people apply for things a year in advance. And it's the way how society works. And I don't know if that was a cultural shock when I came to the US.
Yeah.
Like, what? People are making appointments. Even with my friends, now I'm booking for February. Oh, we want to go for dinner. Let's make a February. Like, what is this? Where was wrong? Cultural shock number one. Really, they plan ahead. And as going to apply to a program, the window of application for programs opens in March. So if it opened in March of 2021, it's to start in the summer of 2022. So you already are a year or a year and a half ahead of the process or behind. So you have to count that time into your preparatory time. So underestimating the process means not realizing that things take time, being impatient or thinking that what is a shortcut? How can I make this faster?
Mm-hmm.
There must be another way that I can work with my stuff from my country. And another element that people underestimate is all of the elements related with cost, with changing your status legally, who's going to give me a visa, all of these other elements. So I will say that don't underestimate the process. Do your research. Be clear on what's the path to licensure that you're going to follow. Are you going to do an advanced standing program? Are you going to do a specialty? Are you okay on which states can you practice with a specialty or not? And this is not a video for beginners, by the way. If somebody's watching,
they're going to be lost a little bit. Yeah.
We're going to send you back to all of our content. And I know you have so much content about these learners, so we're going to refer them back to all of that material because this is for people that already know that are making the mistakes. So identify what is the direct or the best pathway to licensure depending on what your long-term goals are. And based on that, create a plan for yourself. And the plan has to be reasonable in order to be attainable. If you make an unreasonable plan and say, I'm going to achieve this in 6 months, it's not going to happen. You're going to end up frustrated.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Every comma, every period, every word, I agree with everything. When sometimes I'm talking to people and they're like, how long does it take for you to finish school? And I'm like, school for me to me it was 2 years and 4 months, but sometimes you can get done in 2 years. And they're like, oh, I'm not going to spend 2 years in school. That's way too long. And they don't even know that it takes about 2 years just to apply and get into school. So it's actually 4, you know, but they're already like, oh, I'm not going to go through 2 years of school. That's too long. And I'm like, buddy, you have no idea what you're talking about if that's your first comment, you know, because it's not 2 years and you're done. It's a long time to prepare. Become a very good qualified candidate, apply, get accepted, and if you finish on time, which most people do, you're done in 2 years of school. But the whole process is way longer than that. So people need to embrace this path, this journey, and like you said, not underestimate the process because it's a very lengthy process, guys. It's very, very lengthy.
But it's worth it because that's what we're talking here about it. So
yes,
I think I feel like it just has to be the right fit. And I'm going to link that with mistake number 2, because I struggle on finding the right fit for whichever career path you choose to do in your life, whether you choose to stay in your country or coming here or doing a specialty or doing advanced standing, having a selection criteria for your program. So mistake number 2 is apply to programs without selection criteria. I could not tell you, Leonardo, how many times people reach out to me. This is my 3rd cycle applying. And when I check with people what they have done in the 1st or 2nd cycle, oh, that first time I just applied because somebody told me to send the stuff, but I didn't have the boards. And then 2nd time, I just did this and that. They don't know. This is a tattoo that you get. Forehead, by the way. Tattoo in your forehead. You cannot delete. Once you send a CV. You cannot unsend. This weak CV that you send just because, or this application that you try just to try, will not make you luckier. It will actually lower your opportunities later on, because then when they check your CV second, third time, oh, maybe you made a lot of progress, or maybe not, they're going to have something to compare. Or maybe if you're lucky enough to get at some point an interview, they're going to be wonder, why did you even apply on the first step if you were not prepared? But you become somebody that has already failed several times in the process. And that also puts you in a more vulnerable situation. So don't do that to yourself. Only apply when you're ready. And applying when you're ready means meeting all the criteria, meaning don't apply if you don't have the minimum things they require. Don't try to find the shortcuts. I'm going to only apply for the programs that they don't ask me the boards. Or I'm going to apply if I don't have the right TOEFL score. I mean, you can still do it. They will let you apply, but they're not going to call you for an interview because you just don't meet the necessary criteria. And also not identifying programs that are right for you. What I mean by that is, let's say that I always knew that I wanted to stay in Florida, which is not true. But if I only wanted to live in Florida, my first mistake is not to check the Board of Dentistry of Florida to check what they're required to get licensed. And let's say that I do a program, I do an implant fellowship in TUFTS, for example. And I feel like just with a 1 year implant fellowship at TUFTS, I'm going to be able to work in Florida, which we know it doesn't happen that way, because that's not a program to license, right? But you know how many people just apply to programs because, oh, this is only 1 year, or oh no, this is like easier. I heard that my friends got in, and they don't have a selection criteria of their own. They just apply to programs think it's easier, or because they think it's cheaper, or because they're going to get paid. And they only have certain things in mind in terms of programs, but they're really not looking at the big picture. They're not thinking about this as, what is the program that best fits me for my future plans? Do I want to be able to practice in Florida, or do I want to be able to go anywhere in the US because, I don't know, maybe I'm married with somebody that is committed to travel and I need to be able to stay. So you have your own selection criteria, and you have to sit down and really look at these programs and find what is best.
Absolutely. A couple of comments here about the subject. Funny you said that, because somebody got in touch with me about 3 weeks ago, and he was like, hey, I interviewed to a program. He's a Brazilian guy. He was like, hey, I got an interview. I interviewed, and I did not get accepted. And I want to know what to do next, because I applied to several programs, and a lot of the programs didn't even didn't really consider my application because it wasn't completed. I did not know that they have a second round of application. I'm like, you did not know that after you submit your CAPID, I call CAPID, CAPID in Portuguese, some people say CAPID, but the CAPID, I applied the CAPID, but I didn't realize that after you do that, you have to send a supplemental application. I'm like, you just threw $1,000 out the window. Just because you did not know that you have to submit a supplemental application, because you didn't spend enough time doing a research about the program, you just threw over $1,000. I think it was 5 or 7 programs that he applied to, and he did not submit a supplemental application, so they didn't even consider him. The money is just down the drain. You know, and when you're thinking about how much money you spend in this process, you don't want to waste $1,000 doing something like that. You don't. So you have to read the requirements. You have to read what they ask for, and you have to have that. The only exception here that I may add, because I've seen people in situations like this, are like situations where TOEFL score minimum requirement is 100 and somebody has a 98 or 97. You know, my rule of thumb, my recommendation is to be like, get in touch with the program director and ask them that. At least they know that, yes, you are reading the instructions. You can read the instructions, because they try to lay out everything for you so you don't have to contact them. That's why they try to give the instructions. So if you ask a ton of questions that is in the website, guess what? You're not reading, you're not following the instructions, you know? So if you have a score for a TOEFL, for example, that's slightly below, make sure you send an email. I'm aware that your cutting grade is X. I got this much. I have everything else. I won't have a chance to take my TOEFL score again before the deadline. would you consider my application? Okay, that's the exception. But if they ask for GRE, if they ask for board, and they ask for TOEFL, and they don't have any of that, and say I'm sending my CV, that's not going to work.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you mentioned the TOEFL thing, because a lot of people don't know this. And the fact that a school asks for a specific TOEFL score is probably dictated by the Board of Dentistry of that state.
Oh, is it? I did not know that.
Yeah, so the states regulate the requirements for giving these licenses, right? So you, anyways, to a resident, you will have to give license. And I'm going to put the example of Massachusetts. Every resident in Massachusetts gets a limited license to work when they are under the residency, basically to be able to see patients during residency. Is the Board of Dentistry of Massachusetts that decides that these residents will have to have, if they're internationals, certain TOEFL scores. So for some states, happens that way because the boards regulate things, especially if the school is linked to a hospital. A hospital base, they regulate, or they have everything regulated that they will ask for the medical colleagues. Yes, so because the regulation comes from the board of the state of the whichever school you're applying, the school might be able to give you a conditional acceptance. So that actually can get a long way. If you send that nice email, you know what, to the Mr. Program Director, that I would really appreciate if you can consider my application. I recognize my TOEFL score is 2 points below what you're cutting. I'm willing to take the exam by this date if you give me an opportunity. Those little things, if everything else in your CV is perfect or everything else in your application is complete, and only is that you're a couple of points from your TOEFL score, you could still communicate. I also give the same advice that you gave, that's spot on, Leonardo, because just having that communication and show, yes, you can read instructions, you understand the system very well, you're not trying for them to tell you what to do or not, is you're just trying to create a window of communication saying, you know, I understand this is something that is required and I'm willing to do the next step, but would you give me a little bit of time? Because most schools will give you a conditional acceptance if it's only TOEFL score, the only thing missing, as long as you're a really good candidate and they like you.
Yes, and I'm not sure how the process to get into dental school in Venezuela works, but in Brazil, it's based on an exam that you take, and that grade decides your future. It doesn't matter if you did 1,000 hours of volunteer work, or if you have leadership skills, or whatever you may have, or if your GPA was the best in high school. It doesn't matter. It's that exam to be accepted in school, and that's it. People from Brazil don't realize how, and I think that's going to be your point number 5. So I'm not going to jump all into that, but like, people don't realize that you have to follow the requirements.
Yes.
You know, and everything is important when you're applying. So plan your application. So 1, you don't waste any money, because it is very expensive to apply. Just to apply, it's expensive. 2, when you establish, if you establish this communication with program director, they know that you know how to read instructions, and they know that, or if you apply with a very, very poor CV, like she was saying, just to try, and then next year we'll see again, well, they already saw some information about you that's not really helping you much. So plan your application. And the third thing that she mentioned that's extremely important, I have my notes here that about what you're saying, it is the where you want to live. It makes no sense for you to do a specialty if you want to work in Florida, because with a specialty only, you're not going to be able to work in Florida unless you want to be a faculty. You might be able to get a license, but you're not gonna work in Florida with a specialty license only. So make sure you know the requirements of the state that you're going to before you spend a lot of money. And that's important also because some states will accept you with a DDS, advanced standings, or specialty. Okay. Then one may think, well, I'm going to apply everywhere. Well, your personal statement for an advanced standings program is going to be one. Your personal statement for a specialty is going to be different. So you have to plan that as well. You know, you have to plan that as well. If you are like me, who's an orthodontist already from your home country, and you're applying to an orthodontic residency to do for second round, you're going to have to explain really well why you want to go through that again. You know, if you're going to advanced standings program, you're going to have to explain really well that specifically with orthodontics, because such a unique specialty inside dentistry or oral surgery, you're going to have to explain really well that you're going to be able to drill teeth and you don't care only about ortho. So it really varies the way you're going to present yourself depending on the school that you're going to apply. So be mindful about that. While she pointed out here, guys, it's extremely important. This planning is extremely important for your success.
Actually, you mentioned something that I want to take on for a second, Leonardo, which is
Sure.
regarding the selection criteria and having something that is consistent to you. Well, oh, which program should I apply? You know what? That story for you was different than for me, than for anyone that is listening right now. You cannot make a story. You can only live your own story. So you need to be able to identify what is the program that best fits your needs. If you're a person that has outstanding research experience and research career, if you apply to a program in a school that provides a lot of research opportunities, that is very consonant to who you are. Versus if I just come like you, like if I was a specialist in my country, or if I come with like zero experience and I want to jump into a master's without having any research experience, the first question is, why do you want to do this? And you have to be able to answer that question. If you cannot answer that question to yourself, you probably cannot answer to a program director in an interview. So there is just so far that you can get with lying and then with making up a story, but your story has to be yours. And I believe that there is something called like right fit. There are programs that are better fitted for certain people. There are people that have clinic skills that are fantastic clinical programs. There are people that have fantastic research experience that are most other research programs. So really identifying and justifying why you select a certain program. So have a clear selection criteria, being able to communicate that and customize your application to it, which is key. What you mentioned, I love it, because making a different personal statement for one job versus the other. And I even say making sometimes a different curriculum. When I have different curriculums, I have CVs from my own. From when I applied for residency was one. When I finished, for faculty position was another one. For a private practice will be another one. And it's the same person with the same experience, but the way how you craft your CV will convey a message and will make it. So you want to influence the person reading to make them feel that you are the right person for that position. And that feeling will not be the same for a program director of ortho, to a program director of advanced standing, to a person hiring you in an office.
Let me ask you a question then, since you're touching the subject and your expertise is very valuable and I don't have enough in this subject. So let me know your thoughts about this. CVs usually, of course, the whole application, either PASS or the CAPIT system, will require very lengthy stuff. But sometimes they also ask you to send a CV. We try to keep that within, what, 2 or 3 pages? What is your recommendation?
Generally speaking, for CV, I will say 2 to 2.5 max.
2 to 2.5, okay.
Things that are relevant to the application that you are making. Unless you're somebody who really, let's say that you have extensive research and you have done 40 publications. Even in those scenarios, I recommend people just to put a link to PubMed or whatever, where the whole page can be found, and have like a digital lighter version of their CV, where out of a click of access, people can access to additional information. So that way you can keep it shorter. Because the truth is that program directors or whoever reading that CV, they don't have that much time to read a 7-8 page CV. So more often than not, especially kind of like combining academia with the corporate world in terms of crafting a CV, it is a good standard. If it's for academics, maybe 2 to 2.5 pages is fine. You could even have it shorter. I see people doing it a page to a page and a half without hyperlinks. So let's say that, okay, all my publications in this link, all my other things in that link. So that way you could kind of like tailor it to kind of like digest the information person, so they read the things that you want them to read according to that particular position that you're applying to. But I would say 2.5, it's okay.
Guys, this first 30 minutes here, she gave you guys a lot of gold right here. So you guys got to pay attention to what she's talking. It's going to be recorded. It's going to stay here. It's going to be on YouTube later. But pay attention, because what she's telling you guys is very, very important information. So number 3, what would be number 3?
You're going to like this. Not looking at data. And I know you're a data man, so.
I am.
So I think people don't realize how data-driven America is. And America referring to the United States. Everything here, if it has not been published, there is somebody writing a paper about. guys, all of this data about applications, where the applicants are coming from, how many of them are accepted, is public data, guys. Public data means that you can go on the ADA website, you can go on the match.com, you can, not the match the dating, but the match for the matching for the person. Is it match like the dating site? No. It's a match for. So try to find information and having the data clear. And what the data is, and I wish I could flip this. I'll send probably, I'll make some post about the data, because the data will show you historically in the past 8 or 10 years how many people have been accepted that are non-US trained people in the different. Yes. And that's so valuable, because you have an idea of how many people are you competing with. And that is important for you to get a sense of how much effort you need to do, or what type of things you need to do to differentiate yourself. And differentiate comes from all of the things that we're going to talk in mistake number 5. But differentiation means how can you make your CV stand out of that pile of people. And for example, and I have this challenge with a lot of people trying to apply for ortho surgery programs, and ortho can be a good example that is similar to ortho surgery. Many people will know that ortho surgery and ortho are the most competitive programs in the United States among US applicants. As such, you're competing with Americans in the very, very competitive programs to get a spot. So your chances of getting a seat in those programs are lower, because first of all, they're going to not prefer, but in a way, the American applicants are going to have a higher or stronger CV than you for many other reasons that we're going to talk later. But you're putting yourself in a disadvantage if you only focus on applying to those programs because all I wanted to do is oral surgery. But guess what? These people applying to oral surgery have done all these 200 things besides you. And maybe you're already an oral surgeon in your country and you have been working for 20 years, but now you have a recent grad that is showing to be more coachable or more teachable than you, fresh out of school, willing to learn, and you're coming all cocky saying, just because I worked for 20 years, this and that. And your experience is fantastic and it's very well, it could be well appreciated too, but you have to set yourself for success. And the best way to do that is looking at the data, checking what programs accept more international people, checking universities that historically accept more international people, because there are some programs that, and some.
I love that you're saying that. I love because I have videos, short videos on YouTube where I talk about that, and people just don't know the importance, and they don't realize it is so important.
They don't know, and they don't recognize, perhaps in Massachusetts, 80% of our population in the school is foreigner or like mixed or with a foreigner background. But if you go to Georgia, it's going to be a completely different scenario, because every state in America, every city is a country. And it has a completely different culture, a completely different environment. Such it happens with each university. And the same element happens with age. I have a lot of people reaching out to me, and I don't know if it's the same with you. I'm older than 40, or I'm 40 something or 50. I want to do this. I'm too old. What do you think? And the truth is that sadly, the same thing that happens with cultural variances, it happens with age. Some programs accept older people more than others. Some universities are more welcoming to accept other people that have certain age than others, for several reasons that we're not here to discuss about. But there is a cultural age and culture of origin that I think it's important that we know, that we're coming to a country that has some biases about us. So they will have some biases about Venezuelans. So they will have certain idea about, oh, Venezuelans are always late. And maybe I'm the most punctual person in the world, but maybe this program director already thinks because the previous Venezuelans, they knew they were late, so they wouldn't like Venezuelans, or things like that. So that's changing, and I think it's less prevalent. But yet, looking at the data will help you applying for programs on which you will get better chances to succeed.
So there are a few things that are very interesting about this, in all related to data, analyzing data, but in different aspects of it. First, you're talking about in Massachusetts having a lot of foreign people, in Georgia being different. One of the things that people have to know is that some states, they won't even allow you to have a limited faculty license if you didn't graduate from a CODA accredited school. And if you don't know what a CODA accredited school is, you have to go back to my videos on YouTube and figure that out, because it's right there. Like she'll say, this is a little bit more advanced lecture today. So, well, guess what? If you didn't graduate from a CODA accredited school, you're not going to get a job there in these schools. So you have to know which schools will take you. And in addition to that, it won't hurt if you start going into the website and start to look for who are the faculty. Are they graduated from the United States or not? Because they can be foreign, but if they graduate from the United States, they're not technically considered foreign, because usually they're foreign from, like, they were born in a different place. But once you graduate in an American school, okay, you're basically like, you mix in, because once you graduate from American school, it's easier to compare you. Okay, it's easier to compare you. She was talking about oral surgery and orthodontics being highly competitive, and foreign people having a little bit of a disadvantage. Why is that? Well, I don't know how many schools in the U.S., they're all up to the same standard. They are all different, but they all have to be accredited by CODA. So they have a way to kind of compare and have an idea between the schools. They know that people will be off, but not that far off. Now, you compare to schools in Brazil, Venezuela, India, South Africa, Uruguay, Argentina, you name it. They don't have a way to compare. So you're going to have to stand out way more to be able to get a spot for interview. You know, you may be a better candidate than a ton of people that graduated from American schools, but it's easier to compare them between themselves compared to a foreign person. So look for programs that accept foreign people on a regular basis. How do you do that? Very simple. Go to the school website. Not all the websites are like this, but go to the school website, go into the graduate program that you're looking for, click in residence. And usually it's going to show a picture of them, where they're from, where they graduate. Focus on where they graduated rather than where they're from. If it says that they graduated from an American institution only, and everybody graduated from an American institution, the odds are not on your side. Now, if you see that a lot of them graduated from a country outside of the U.S., that's good news. You know, maybe you should focus more on these schools. Now, are there exceptions? Yes. Cynthia, who you guys know really well, she's an orthodontic resident in Washington, MedStar Hospital. I think she was probably the first foreign person without an American degree to get accepted to the program. I could be wrong, but I think she was the first one. Now, she spent 2.5 years in the U.S. building her CV. She has a PhD, she has a ton of stuff. So she worked really hard to get there. So I'm not saying that's not going to work if they don't take foreign, but the odds are on your side if they do. Simple like that. Okay, so that's very, very interesting. And the third thing that I want to talk about, you mentioned the match. I love the match statistics. I think there was 1 year that maybe one foreign person, but I keep saying foreign, I don't mean foreign, I mean graduated from a non-American, non-CODA university. That's what I mean. I think only one person was accepted. So what are the chances of Leo here applying for an oral surgery program coming straight from Brazil without anything special? Very small, very small. Now, if you go into perio or pros, certain years are like 40–45% of people are foreign trained students or dentists. So if you want to apply to perio or pros, great, your chances are much higher. Do your research. It's all there in the internet. Just do your research, go after that. That's very, very important information. Loved it.
And same applies to advanced standing programs, AGD or GPR programs. And different to advanced standing, if you apply for a program that gets you a revalida or validates your CV, you know you're going to be competing only with people that come from other schools that are also non-CODA accredited. So that's why many people feel that the path towards licensure with advanced standing is a little bit more straight line, because you're only with people like you. And at the same time, it's also important that you will have to give up maybe everything you know, and you humbly have to go back to them. Those programs, you go back to be inserted either in a 3rd year of dental school or sometimes in a 2nd year of dental school if it's a 3-year program. That you'll have to really adapt into, as you said, go back to do fillings, go back to do endo, go back to do anything that you probably have done in a while, maybe because you don't like it. Setting off a dental school. So that's very important. But
in my humble opinion, advanced standings program is much, 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 much easier than specialty or AGD or GPR. Much easier. Like, there's not even a comparison. It's so much easier because the quality of the applicants, and I'm saying you didn't do the advanced standings, right?
No.
Okay. Do you interview people for advanced standings?
Mm-hmm.
You do. Okay. I'm not sure if you're allowed to talk about this or not, because I know some schools have some rules. So I'm going to tell you my experience when I interviewed, and feel free to chime in. But like, we had about 40 people that interviewed with us, and out of over 300 applicants. So a lot of people applying. Think, holy cow, 300, 400 people applying, 500 people applying. Well, 40 made to the interview. And then you think that you're going to have just people with like great skills, everybody's fantastic, and yada yada. Some people there couldn't carry a conversation in English. Well, but they had a high TOEFL score. Who cares? If they get there, they cannot carry a conversation in English. That's not good. So several of the candidates that were there, out of like this over 300 pool of applicants, they picked 40. Out of this 40, who's supposed to be the top notch, you have more than a handful of people that cannot really interact with each other. Mm-hmm. So I've seen people interview for ortho residency. You have 30 people there. They're all top notch. Mm-hmm. They're all like, phew. Now advanced standings, not necessarily. Mm-hmm. Why? There's no standard way how schools work around the world. So they get all these CVs here and they pick whoever looks the best. Mm-hmm. That's why there's an interview, guys. Because sometimes the CV will say something, and then the interview, they're going to be like, this doesn't really match what I'm saying here, you know? So don't get discouraged by the amount of applicants. Just go for it. And that goes to one thing that I talk about, since I'm talking about this sending CV and stuff. A lot of people are like, I don't have the proof that I did this course or that I did that or that I did this event. I don't have the proof. Like, how can I put this in my CV? And I'm like, they're not going to ask for the proof. But if you put something in your CV and you cannot freely look at them in the eye and talk about it with confidence, they're going to know that you're lying and you're screwed. So don't make up anything.
That is something so embedded in the culture. And you submit, and on the side you submit like a bucket of all the papers with all of the diplomas, right? So yeah. Because you have to prove yourself all the time. They trust you. So if you put something on a paper, it better be right.
Better be right.
They're not gonna think it's a lie. But if you go to an interview and you said you are a CEREC specialist, and then when you get the interview, they ask you about CEREC and you don't even know how to articulate a sentence, they're gonna be like, I might better ask you for this. So generally speaking, the interview is your opportunity not only to show who you really are, but also to be able to show the person that is interviewing you, whether it's a faculty or program director or a resident, that you could be part of that team. That's why I strongly believe it's about the right fit, because I feel like you should go to this interview so well prepared, like the way that you study for the boards. You spend 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years, how long, I don't know how long will it take you to take the national boards, but then you want to prepare for an interview in a weekend or 2 weekends.
It doesn't work.
And it's like, I asked a friend because I know that he got into an interview. Guys, maybe they got accepted by luck, maybe they got accepted because they're farming, maybe because they got accepted because that day the person that they were supposed to accept gave up and they gave the spot to this person. You just don't even know what's behind the process. Prepare for every step as intensively as you will for an exam. That's what I will say about interviews, because that alone, I could spend hours talking about it. So we get to number 4.
Indeed. Yeah, let's go to number 4. We have about 12 minutes. So let's jump to number 4.
Not recognizing the cost of the process.
That's a good one.
This is a tough one to talk about. I get questions all the time. What is the cheapest way? What is the one if I don't have the money? And guys, I get it. I was in the same position. I could only apply to the schools I could afford to apply. That's how limited my budget was. But that didn't make me feel that I didn't have opportunities. That actually made me feel that I needed to be smarter with my choices. I have a budget, so I needed to make sure if I'm going to apply to only 6 schools, because that's all I could afford, those schools, they better be the right fit. Because if I'm making my own choice, or if I'm making a choice based on, let me see which school is cheaper, or let me see which school the flight ticket is cheaper, or identify this other or the program that at the end is less expensive. At the end, I might be missing out from a good opportunity. And what you miss that year is not only all the time, the investment you waste a year, and that nobody gives you that back. And the following year you come back with your tattoo, second time around, less money, more frustration, more sense of insecurity about the process. So recognize that the process is costly, even if you're not thinking about the cost of the university. There's so many costs related with immigrating, not even to talk about the other stuff. You need to think about getting a visa. How much will the visa cost me? Eventually, if you will apply for a green card, you will have to pay for that. If you will have to pay your tickets for interviews. Right now, luckily, we can do online interviews, so you might save a lot of money with being able to interview remotely. But you will have supplemental applications from the schools, which typically carry an additional fee for each school separately. And so there are really a lot of extra expenses. And along with those expenses, maybe I'm biased because I'm the person that always goes to coaches for everything. Like if I want to learn public speaking coach. If I want to learn music coach. I always look for the expert. Why? Because I will not have all the answers. Even if I look at the data, if I make the best decisions that I feel that are educated decisions, I don't have all the knowledge. And honestly, I don't have all the time to get all the knowledge I need. I might need maybe a few years to get back on track of the whole process for it to change again. So invest in yourself. If you feel that you need to hire somebody to help you, if you need a support group, if you need to take collective classes with somebody, if you need to get a mentor, whatever it is that is your need individually, don't cheap out on yourself. Don't be cheap with you and say, I'm not going to spend money on that because it's a waste of money. Moving to another country in which you will have a better life eventually is an investment. You don't buy a house thinking, oh, the mortgage is so much or all these monthly payments are so much. Yes, there are a lot. There is a lot of investment. You're going to have to be probably saving a lot of money on other things. Otherwise, maybe not going out on the weekends for a year or two. Certain things that are different to your lifestyle because the goal at the end will be bigger. So you have to process the same way. And it aggravates me a little bit when people are, in a way, setting themselves slow because of money, because it is an expensive process. And I know education in the US is very expensive, very different to perhaps my country. I went to a public dental school. I only have to pay for my patient treatments because they could barely afford them. But in education, good education is accessible and it should be free for all. That's a dream that we all have. But we're choosing to come to a country where education is expensive. It is our choice. And because it is our choice, we need to own it. And because we need to own it, we need to learn how to play the game. And to learn how to play the game, we need to know the rules. We cannot go into a game and say, okay, no, I'm going to come here to play your game with my rules.
That doesn't work.
Never work, right? That's not good. So that's all I will say about not recognizing the cost of the process. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
No, I agree 100%. A lot of people don't have the means to do it. And I do private consulting as well. And sometimes people come to me and they're like, what should I do? And I do a thorough financial background check. And I'm like, you're not able to apply at this time. Basically, you just can't. Because you have the money to apply, but you don't have money to move forward based on the schools that you want to go to. So don't even waste your money. Sometimes I'm like, you can apply, but you're limited to 5-6 schools. That's all you can do. You can't go more than that. Sometimes they're like, you can go to these schools, but you're not going to be able to live in the state that you want to live because you're applying to AHD. And that state that you want to go to doesn't accept AHD. So you need to know, you have to have a very thorough financial planning executed to make sure you don't waste money. And keep in mind that you're not spending money, you're investing money. You can put money in stocks and get 6% return a year. You can put money in yourself and get 2,000-3,000% return once you get your degree back. You know, so think about that.
Invest on yourself.
Invest on yourself. Last 5 minutes, number 5. Let's do it.
My favorite.
Your favorite, mine too.
Hidden curriculum. The hidden curriculum are, remember I just mentioned about the game that you go play and you know the rules? These are the hidden rules. This is the nobody wears jeans, but it's not written anywhere that you cannot wear jeans, and that you come on jeans and everybody looks at you while you're wearing. I don't know if you had that experience here in the US.
I made that mistake myself. But however, it wasn't for my interview.
Okay.
It was when I was working at the school, and I thought that was normal to come in jeans, and I found out it was not. So it wasn't for the interview, at least, but I made that mistake myself.
So hidden curriculum are those hidden rules, the ones that everybody knows, but you don't know because you're not part of the culture. So that's what is hidden. Everybody knows, but it's not written. With education happens the same. There's a lot of things that people learn when they're in a school and outside the school that we don't learn because we're not part of the system, right? We're in our countries, in our little bubbles. And as you said, in my country, I knew to get into dental school, I need to score high on a test. That was it. And then I knew that I graduated and I go to work. Here, dental students are exposed to so many extracurricular activities or things that they need to do in order to be competitive, that they force them to be part of so many activities all along dental school. So imagine you're coming in maybe 5-10 years after graduating, 1 year after graduating. You're already behind because these kids have been preparing for this moment since, not forget about dental school. My husband does coaching in public speaking. He coaches kids from ages 5 to 12. Can you imagine kids going to coaching sessions for public? Wow. 5 to 12, you have kids. In order for making your kids competitive, you have to take them to all the classes, include them in all the groups, exposing them to all the opportunities just because you want them to be well-rounded and prepared to be able to compete with others in the environment we live in. So we're coming late. We don't understand there is a hidden thing because in our cultures, everything is being told, nothing is hidden. So that's first mistake, right? So we don't recognize there is something else under the surface. And when we are trying to do something, we do because we think it's important, but we don't understand why it's really important. Doing volunteer, community health service, giving your time to organizations, collaborate, doing leadership training, doing research, whatever it means for you. Doesn't mean that you have to do it all, but you have to do something that is meaningful for you and do it well. If you're going to be part of a research project, it is not important that you have research experience. It's important that were you first author? What was your role? Oh, I was the one with coffee. No, that's not a role, right? So you have to be able to defend and articulate what's the value of that thing that you learn, and also put certain number of hours. When people come to me and they probably have the same experience, oh, I'm preparing a curriculum. I only have 6 months to the application. I need to do research. In 6 months,
not gonna work.
I think this is the way to build curriculum. Maybe just find something else. Let's try to do a lot of volunteer hours. How many hours can you do a week? And try to do something that is feasible, because the truth is that everybody here does it. And because we're coming from a different culture, different country, we just don't even understand that that's important. So understand that all of these activities are mandatory. This, even though it's not written in the application that you need this, you need that. Guys, you need it. Why? Because to be culturally competent in the United States, you need to be involved in many things. Look at you, Leo. Look at all the things you do. You don't need to do all these things. It just becomes part of who you are. I don't do all the things I do. It just becomes part of who I am. And it becomes part of the society and the circle of dentistry in this country. So don't ignore the hidden curriculum. Make sure that you are involved with activities early on. And if you can do those activities here, if you can find a way of coming to the US and start getting exposed with activities here, with organized dentistry, collaborate, volunteer, the most things you can get involved with, the more you learn about this.
I'll you mentioned me, the things that I do. Let's say that I'm applying today to dental school. For sure, I would add to my application my Revalida USA course. Why? Because it's something that I start on my own. Shows initiatives, shows to the people that are interviewing me that I don't need people telling me what to do. I can make things on my own. I can create things. Also shows that I have a lot of leadership for doing that. I have over 70 people in my course today. Well, it's 70 people that I help, you know. You may not know that, but if you coach high school kids in a sport, that can count as leadership as long as you know how to tell the story about that. You know, you're like, oh, I don't have anything in my curriculum. I was in the Army for 25 years. Well, they love Army here. That's something important. You know, you follow rules. You like you fit in that pattern where you have to respect, you have to obey, you have to follow the rules. You grow in steps. You wait for your chance to grow. When the chance is there, you move up, and so all that counts. So a lot of people think that a great curriculum is 20 papers published. That's one thing. That's one thing in your curriculum. I think in my course I talk about 9 or 10 different things that people are evaluating you. Don't think that all you need is research. There's so many different things that you need. That's very important. I think we are running out of time. Just so you know, we might it may finish at any time, but I want to go ahead and thank you so much. It feels that this just flied. There was not enough time for us to talk about this. We had to run the last one
quickly.
Yeah, I want to thank you so much for this opportunity to join us here and share a little bit of your experience. I'm gonna have this online later so you guys can take a look too on YouTube, on Instagram. You guys are gonna be able to go back and forth. There's a lot of important information. I really appreciate you coming today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and enjoy talking to you as always. And as always, share this information with anyone that you believe it could serve.
Absolutely. I'm gonna try to be back in touch with you today. Okay. Bye bye, guys.